Banaza was just an ugly loser merchant until he was summoned as a hero on another world. But despite being blessed by the gods, he remained a weak loser that couldn't swat a fly until he mysteriously received super cheat abilities at level 2 that allow him game the system. On a hot, sunny afternoon, a bunch of demi-humans were busy loading up various merchants' carts with cargo while getting whipped by their human bosses for not shaking their behinds enough. However, one cart was strikingly different, as the demi-humans tasked with loading it up were freely going about their task with no whips in sight. They had just loaded up the last of the cargo when a human named Banaza walked up to the lead demi-human to request that they take a break since negotiations for the rest of their cargo were ongoing. He then brought out a pouch of money and handed it to the demi-human, much to the shock of nearby humans and the demi-human himself. The demi-human attempted to reject the cash, stating that it wasn't necessary as they were, after all, demi-humans and as such, basically unpaid servants to humans. However, Banaza disagreed with his reply by asking if it mattered if he wanted to pay them for their labor and time. After all, they would be waiting because of him. Then, a cute, dark-haired girl named Quinn walked up to them and also told the demi-human to accept the money because Banaza wouldn't accept no as an answer after making an offer. She further added that the demi-humans should all have a nice meal together. At both their insistence, the demi-humans finally accepted the cash payment while thanking them both profusely before they ran off to get dinner. Once the demi-humans had left, the humans watching tagged Banaza and Quinn as hypocrites, much to Banaza's annoyance. Their negative reaction to him paying the demi-humans then caused him to ask Quinn why everyone couldn't get along regardless of whether a person was human or demi-human. She replied that he was idealistic and that not many people in the capital felt the way he did about that subject matter. At that point, Banaza started glowing, which visibly startled him. Before Quinn could turn around to stop him from going into the avatar state, he disappeared with a flash of light, leaving Quinn alone and wondering what had just happened. After that, Banaza woke up to find himself in a strange room surrounded by cloaked men, while one announced that they had successfully summoned the 198th hero candidate into their world. Banaza, on his part, looked around confused, asking where he was when the sole man in the group without a hood bowed before him and welcomed Banaza to the kingdom of Isekai'd as a hero candidate. This got Banaza more confused, and he asked where exactly he was and what was going on. He further added that there must be some mistake as he wasn't a hero candidate, but a merchant named Banaza. The old crone then informed him that his country has a bunch of weaklings, so they'd rather kidnap _sorry summon heroes and have them battle against the dark army that's been waging war on them because that's what their ancestors did. Once he finished his speech, a goat-faced maid, presumably a demi-human who was holding a specter, walked up to meet Banaza on the podium. At the same time, the old man stated that he wished to access his abilities. She then instructed Banaza to place his hands on the specter, which he did. Once the speaker began glowing due to Banaza's touch, the old man said that for returning to level 1 after getting summoned to their world, the gods grant the hero candidates divine blessings. He further added that blessings are incredibly powerful powers that no ordinary person can acquire through training because they are divine revelations. To Banaza's shock, the words written on the revelation board are familiar to him. But before he could speak, the demi-human maid screamed and stated that there was no divine revelation and that the stats on the board were those of a completely ordinary man. Banaza laughed while telling her that he had told them earlier that he was an ordinary man and merchant. However, this response did not stop her from quaking in her boots while others in the room began asking how the gods could refuse to send them a divine revelation. At that point, Banaza was about to ask if he could be sent back home when another hero candidate received his divine revelation, and the board revealed that his stats were all 999, thereby granting him unparalleled powers. As a result, Banaza was left alone as everyone rushed to the new hero, pleading that he save them. While the other hero was then taken to the king and declared the kingdom's hero due to his overpowered stats, the kingdom people generally ignored NPC Banaza, who wanted to find a way back home. The king informed him that the portal that brought him to their world had closed, so they would take responsibility for their inability to return him to his original world by granting him special permission to take up residence in the Delaveza forest north of the town. However, this was on the condition that he never mentioned their inability to return the heroes to their original worlds. After he met with the king, Banaza was immediately put in a carriage and transported to the Delaveza forest. During this journey, he got into a conversation with his demi-human driver, who informed him that unlike his home country, demi-humans and humans are considered equal in their world. However, he refused to provide much information about the Delaveza forest. He then locked Banaza inside the carriage to prevent him from asking further questions. Left alone with his thoughts, Banaza reminisced about the differences between his world and the little he knew about the one he had ended up in. They continued on their journey for another 20 days, during which Banaza pestered the unfortunate demi-human driver with questions about his world through the carriage window whenever he had the opportunity until they arrived at their final destination. Once at the forest's entrance, the driver let Banaza out of the carriage and presented him with a gift from the king, a magic bag with enough money and food to last him a while. However, he also told Banaza that the Dark King's army was known to patrol that portion of the forest, so he should stay as far away from it as possible if he wished to avoid them. However, Banaza remarked to himself that the driver wanted him to run, but he didn't even know where he'd run to. He decided to take a sword from the bottomless bag to be safe, which was smart because, while considering his next move, 3 nearby slimes attacked him. He was able to quickly slay them, but his blade was seriously damaged in the fight. Shortly after winning his first fight, Banaza received a level up notification informing him that he had reached level 2, and he saw that his stats now bore a mark similar to the infinity mark. Another effect of his level up was that he could activate voice guidance, much like Rimuru's Great Sage with several magic spells. When activated, the voice guidance notified Banaza of the malevolent spells that had been applied to his bottomless bag and assisted in their removal. It also warned him about entering the Delaveza forest due to the presence of Melicium, a gaseous material generated by demons that was lethal to humans. However, Banaza replied that he had no choice but to enter the forest because that is where the king ordered him to reside, so the voice guidance offered to purify the forest with 1/3 of his magic, which he accepted. Following his purification of the forest, voice guidance immediately started bombarding Banaza with level upgrade notifications. Back at the king's palace, the first princess was telling the king that it was cruel of him to send Banaza to Delaveza forest when he couldn't return to his world due to their mistake, especially since the Dark Army had established a frontline base there. However, the Scum King dismissed her words by saying that he was a worthless piece of trash that couldn't be their hero. Just then, a mage ran into the throne room and informed them that someone had just used the highest holy magic of all, purification. The king immediately assumed that it was the golden-haired pansies who had recently left the kingdom to fight the Dark One. However, the mage informed him that the magic wasn't used in the south, where the hero was located, but in the Delaveza forest up north. This news visibly surprised the king and princess. Back in the forest, Banaza was shocked to see that his level had swiftly increased from 2 to 367. However, he reasoned that simply utilizing magic would level one up in that world. So he turned off the level up notifications because they confused him. While deciding what to do next, voice guidance suggested that he use a shape-shifting spell to disguise his ugly face, which he readily accepted. He first shapeshifted into a girl but was immediately aroused by his own body, so instead he changed into a different-looking man, which would allow him to go into town without getting recognized as Banaza. The next voice guidance informed him about a teleportation spell, which he immediately used to get into town. He then noted that in his old world, the teleportation spell was something only powerful individuals could use. Still, things must work differently in the new world. This thought process then made him realize that he could try teleporting to his old world, but unfortunately, it didn't work. Since he was stuck in the new world, Banaza decided to join an adventurer's guild so that he could make some money through quests. At the guild headquarters, he decided to register under the name Philo. While searching for an easy job to undertake, he overheard a little girl who was searching for someone to escort her to Delaveza Forest. But no one was willing to take her up on the offer because the Dark Lord's army was based there. So Banaza offered to take her using teleportation magic, much to the surprise of everyone nearby. However, many of them assumed that he was bluffing. He was immediately confronted by 4 female adventurers who accused him of trying to kidnap or enslave the girl, or that maybe he was just a degenerate pedo. To prove his innocence, he offered to teleport all of them with him to Delaveza Forest, which he did with ease. Upon arriving at the forest and realizing that he was indeed being honest, the adventurer apologized for discrediting him and being rude. Furthermore, the little girl noticed that the Melicium enveloping the forest was gone and asked how that happened. Still, before he could respond to her question, voice guidance informed him that she was a demon. The four adventurers also took up arms against the girl and asked that she reveal her true form. At that point, Banaza was like, what the hell? So he asked what was going on and was informed that the guild had put out a notice about a suspicious young girl who had been soliciting assistance in traveling to Delaveza Forest where the Dark Army was gathered. The young girl's voice immediately became deeper, and her smile got freakishly wide. She claimed that such lowly knights had some nerve talking to her in such a manner, then took on the appearance of a giant wolf and introduced herself as Fenris, the younger sister of Fengarel of the Infernal Four. Seeing her true appearance caused the knights to shit their pants, as she was a lupine. Nevertheless, Fenris continued talking and said that her brother had sent her to scout the enemy and find food, so now she'd kill them all. After this statement, she released Melicium, which brought all four knights to their knees, but Banaza remained unaffected. He quickly teleported the ladies out of there and stayed behind to face Fenris. She laughed and asked if he was ready to become her food, but he thought to himself that he wouldn't die unless he'd done something worthwhile in the new world. With that determination, he brought up all his spells and they charged at each other. Is this the making of another overpowered protagonist? My fellow Rizzlers, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on this next one right here and keep on laughing.